Talking F1 with Steve, Neil and the Gov. Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your, well, it's not the Monday night Formula One pit stop talking Formula One. It's not a Wednesday either, it's a Friday, the show that keeps bouncing the days because the F1 news keeps coming, and we felt after not having a show Monday due to a couple of reasons. Actually, the reasons were being we're going to be moving the show from Monday to a Wednesday, so you'll be catching us every Wednesday at 7:15 from next week. But with the breaking news, we felt we couldn't sit on our hands and do absolutely nothing. So we are here live. You can get involved in any way you want to via the live chat, or of course by coming on your platform to have your say in your own words. I will drop the link into the chat and you can come on the show and just tell me how you're feeling about the race this weekend. About Danny Ricardo and McLaren parting ways after this season. Will Ricardo even be in the sport next season? He says F1 is the only sport on his mind, but will that be next year or later years? We've got Audi to enter Formula One, Alfa Romeo partnership to end, all sorts coming up in the next couple of minutes. But as always, you can find this show on our YouTube platform, which I'm sure you're watching on it now. If not, hello to our Twitter and Facebook friends, or you can of course listen to it back on all good platforms. Just search Talking Formula One and you should find our graphics, and you can take us with you wherever you shall be or go, whichever the right grammar input word is there. I do not know, but anyway, what I do know is, well, let's bring Steve in first, the aficionado Stephen Thompson.
No, I think Bottas he'll be the one to really hold out.
I say bring Neil in first. Bring Steve in first. Like there's somebody else to be bringing in, but it's just me and you tonight.
It is the dynamic duo.
Less dynamic, more just you. Let's be honest. I am a fish out of water. Steve has carefully and lovingly crafted those 4 things I told you at the start of the show, and I'm just going to ask him. He's going to talk to me, and I'm going to nod and pretend I know. But why am I going to nod and pretend I know, Steve? Because where is Neil gone?
Neil has decided that apparently his marriage is quite important to him. So he's gone off on a little mini-moon rather than spend the evening with us talking about the best sport in the world.
So let me get this straight. The geezer gets married during the football season last weekend. The geezer then decides to have a mini-moon on the weekend Formula One returns.
I know. So it's just...
I don't think we should...
Selfish, really.
I'm amazed we allowed it to happen, to be honest with you, Steve.
It slipped under the radar, didn't it? That one slipped under, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Train into London is really what we should have accepted as an excuse. I think we should have put our foot down, you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, this is what it's all about. But, you know, you've got to weigh it up, you know. Priorities, Neil.
And it's his own team as well.
Yeah, it's his own team hitting the headlines for various reasons. Some good, some not.
Yeah, but he's not here. So it's just me and Steve. So if you do want to get involved in the show, hit the live link, get involved, because otherwise I can't guarantee what sort of show you'll have. But we move on to Formula One matters. Got a couple of comments flying into the screen already. Good evening, EJ. I hope you are well. And he says, lovely guy, 100%. Yes, Steve is a lovely guy. Neil needs to readjust his priorities. He really does. We love you. We love you, Neil. As his best man, I can get away with certain liberties. James Elmer. Really hope we see Danny Ricardo next year as much a nice person. Right, Danny Ricardo set to leave McLaren. It was announced a few days ago. They will see out the final 9 races of the year together before going their separate ways. McLaren have announced they will announce their partner for Norris in due course. But they said this, Steve, before I let you come in on it. It's been a privilege to be a part of the McLaren. No, sorry, Ricardo said this. It's been a privilege to be a part of the McLaren racing family for the last 2 seasons, but following several months of discussions, and we have been talking about on this show back and forth for several weeks now, haven't we, Steve? Where will they, won't they, will they, won't they? But like friends, really. With Zach, we had decided, who is the McLaren CEO, and Andreas, who is the team principal, we decided to terminate my contract with the team early and agree to mutually part ways at the end of the season. Before I get your thoughts on him parting ways and leaving, are you shocked they're parting ways? Because he hasn't kept pace with Norris.
I I don't know. I've been racking my brain because I don't know how I feel about it. Am I shocked? Am I not? Part of me is, part of me isn't. Part of me isn't because, yeah, over the couple of years together, barring Ricardo's fantastic win in Italy last year, which is the only win since Jenson Button in 2012.
Yeah.
He got that win, but he's been largely outperformed by Norris. Norris has got a good amount of podiums for them in subpar machinery, I suppose. Ricardo hasn't. He's only got that one win. So I'm not surprised really because Norris has really outperformed him. But I am surprised because all things were pointing towards Ricardo staying. The team were talking it up, and Ricardo was talking it up, and obviously the contracts mean nothing in Formula One, football, in sport in general. But there was a lot of positive talk coming out of the McLaren camp, so I was still quite shocked, and it was quite a hefty payout if it was to be believed, over 20 million to get Ricardo out of that contract that McLaren were obviously happy to shell out for him.
Good grief. I mean, Brown's statement on the Formula One website, is it revealing? Is it not revealing? I'll read it to you. You can tell me what you think of the verbiage used. Daniel has been a great addition to McLaren, and it's been a pleasure working with him. I'd like to thank him for all his efforts over the last 2 seasons, both trackside and back at base. It's no secret that we hoped we could achieve more together, but seeing him stand on top step of the podium as a McLaren driver was a highlight. We wish him well for the future, and let's go enjoy the rest of the season together. Is it that lack of success? Because I'm getting from that statement, we've enjoyed working with you, but it's no secret we wanted more. We've had one win. We're moving in a different direction.
Yeah, the lack of success, obviously, that's been the deciding factor, isn't it? Because if Ricardo had jumped in and he was beating Norris regularly and getting podiums and wins and what have you, obviously wins are a bit out of the question, obviously, apart from a crazy race like last year. But
yeah.
He needed to be up there matching or beating Norris most weekends, and he's just failed to do it. The points difference between the two of them over the past couple of years is quite extreme. And
why has he failed to do it? What particularly has held Danny Ricciardo back?
There's something about that car. I mean, they both said it's a tricky car to drive, but it's obviously suiting Lando a little bit more than it is Ricardo. Some weekends the McLarens just aren't on it. Other weekends Lando is and Ricardo isn't still, but it's a tricky car to drive apparently. On his weekends, Ricardo is still good and he's still quick. We've seen that over the 2 years. You don't suddenly become a bad driver, overnight just by moving teams, but he's just not got on with that car. And it's taken him a bit of time, but they just still haven't managed to find the solution. They haven't found what's causing it and how to fix it. So it's better for both parties.
Apologies, Steve. Sorry. Sorry, that was completely my fault. I apologise there. Metal Jazz, I think Ricardo and McLaren have made the best decision. It's not doing either any good. Adrian Garrett is like me, speechless. Ricardo looks very downbeat in his Sky interview. Yeah. Neil, he's not on the show tonight, obviously, but he did say in the WhatsApp group that Daniel seems dejected when asked about continuing F1. And Neil believes he's saying the right words, but with no belief or enthusiasm. And then Metal J says, Ricardo looks downbeat. So again, that's two people saying that. How do you see it at the moment with Ricardo next year, etc., etc.?
Well, in his video as well, where he announced that he wouldn't be at McLaren next year, it looked like he was on the verge of tears. He looks so down. And then this weekend, there should be something about him. I think he's disappointed that it hasn't worked out and that it isn't going to continue. Yes, it's best for both parties, because it had the potential of becoming quite a toxic working relationship, sort of similar to what you had at Vettel and Ferrari, or Alonso and most teams he's been at. It had that potential to really, really degrade and become quite bad. So getting out now is the best time. But yeah, he seems so down and very un-Daniel Ricciardo. So I'm confident he'll be on the grid next year. I think he will find a seat. Yeah, there's been, I don't know, again, you can never read too much into what you see or read, but there's been pictures of Otmar Safnauer, who is one of the head honchos at Alpine, leaving the McLaren motorhome today. So, the Alpine is probably the strongest. Josh
Atherton at the right time asking the question: where do you guys think Ricardo will end up? I've written down on my bit of paper a team that's not the one you're mentioning, but you believe because of that sighting that could be a big clue.
I don't think. Well, I mean, they could be talking about Piastri, because he's rumored to be going to McLaren, and obviously he's an Alpine reserve driver, I think, still currently. I don't know what's going on with him right now. But, I mean, there's other teams rumoured. Apparently, he said that the phone has been ringing. There's offers from Gunther Steiner at Haas. They're still obviously a bit up in the air with Schumacher. There's potential of Williams because...
that's who I wrote down here. That's who I wrote down.
There's obviously a seat there because of Latifi. Can't see him being there next year.
Absolutely not.
I think realistically, the only team you'd want to go to out of those three would be Alpine, because if you go to Alpine, you've got the potential for podiums. If you go to, well, provided they get it right, if you go to Haas, you're just going to be fighting for points. If you go to Williams, you're going to be struggling to get in the points unless they really have something special planned for next year.
To be fair, you have got Albon getting a bit more than, well, I say a bit, that bit's doing heavy lifting in that sentence, a lot more than Latifi. A driver like Danny Ricardo could really accelerate what is a new program at Williams.
Yeah, but is he going to want to do that? He was at Red Bull winning races. He went to Renault to be part of that project. Didn't work for whatever reason. He's gone to McLaren to help that project. That hasn't worked.
Nope.
Williams,
but has he moved them forward, Steve? You say it hasn't worked, but has he moved them forward? Do you feel his presence at the base, do you feel his presence at the testing facilities have helped move those programs, albeit not for himself, but certainly for other drivers, forward?
I have no doubt that his input has really helped, because he's a very experienced driver. He's probably one of the most experienced drivers on the grid now. He's been in F1 since 2011. He's been at Toro Rosso, he's been at Red Bull, he's been at Renault, he's been at HRT, been for a few races in 2011, but I wouldn't really learn much there. But he's been around. He's been around for a long time. He's been at different teams. His experience is invaluable. He's won races for a championship-winning team or championship-contending team in Red Bull. Unfortunately, when they just started to drop the ball, really. But yeah, I think he would have helped. His experience would have helped. It's just unfortunate that it's not been able to be translated into race. To track performance, and into race results. For whatever reason, something's not correlating there.
As you know, and as the people watching at home and listening will know, I'm a new fan. I learn the sport as we talk and as we develop. So first of all, he's 33. Where is that on the age slider for a Formula One driver?
If you look at the ages of a lot of the guys now, it's older, but you've still got the lot. I know Vettel's going this year, but he's a couple of years older. Hamilton's 37, Alonso is 41, and he's going to be racing for the next couple of years.
But both are goats.
I'm staying out of that argument. You know how I feel about that.
Okay, both are elite drivers.
Both are some of the best drivers that have ever been in Formula One.
They're elite.
They're on a different level.
Than Ricardo. That's not unfair to Ricardo, is it? They're on a different level.
No, not at all. Ricardo hasn't proven that he's one of those elite top drivers.
But he's 33. He's not an elite driver. I feel bad
saying that because he's proven he's a top driver because he beat Vettel in their only year together as teammates. But he's not got the championship success.
8 wins, 32 podiums, 1,293 career points, 3 pole positions, 16 fastest laps at 33. If it isn't a new program like Williams and Latifi leaving, what does a team like Haas offer? What does a team like Haas represent? Who leaves to make way? Talk me through if it was Team USA.
It was B. Schumacher who would go because his contract's up at the end of the year. He's not really set the world alight, unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it. And Magnussen, I believe, is contracted on a multi-year deal. So Haas would be a tricky one. I mean, they've got someone like Williams have got this massive new ownership, who have got a lot of money, who are committed to getting Williams back to the front of the grid where they belong. It's going to be a longer term thing. We didn't expect them to start coming in 2022 and start fighting at the front. They've been disappointing, to be honest. But over the next couple of years, hopefully we can see them start to progress. But how is Ricardo going to want to hang around there in Williams? With Haas, I don't believe they've ever got the potential to really push forward because they never seem to have the money to do it. Obviously, Ricardo would bring in a certain level of money and a certain bit of revenue as well. Big driver going to a smaller team. But Alpine would be the choice, I think. If he could say, right, I'll drive for this team, it would be Alpine.
And replacing who at Alpine? Because is there a spot open already?
Alonso, yeah, because Alonso's going to Aston.
Alonso, and then that, of course, would leave the bottom dwellers, and I don't mean that with any disrespect, the Haas and the Williams is, because there's going to be changes there. You'd have thought, right? I mean, or do you anticipate Schumacher if Ricardo doesn't go there, signing an extension to the deal?
Yeah, you've got one seat at Williams, one seat at Haas. Who knows what's going to happen? I believe Schumacher will stay for another year at Haas. I think he's earned it, to be honest. And Latifi, I think, is all but gone at Williams, isn't he? This year he's been miles off the pace of Alex Albon, despite the fact that Albon has been out of F1 for a year, and Latifi's in his third year with the team, and he's still shown no signs of progress. So, I think there's going to be a change at those two teams, definitely. I like that comment by Aston S as well. That's my favourite team as well.
Yeah, that's Steve's favourite team as well. Welcome to the party, Aston. Nice to see you. Nice to be part of the Air Talking F1 my family. Hit the subscribe button, my friend. Okay, so there's a couple of openings. It's just about, what fits in the best, but equally which team views him as a player that's going to transform them into something.
Think Alpine would be a good shout, because there's a lot of talk about sour grapes, and they didn't end in the best way because he left them when they were Renault back at the end of 2020. But the ownership or the management at Renault Alpine has now changed. Cyril Abitbul's gone. It's you got Otmar Safnauer in, who's been happy, who said he would take him. We'd be happy to have him. I don't think Ricardo's too proud to say, all right, I left you guys to try this. It's not worked. Oh, can I come back? I don't think that's below him. I don't think it's below Renault or Alpine. I keep calling him Renault, to say, come back. We'll give it another go. And I think it would be good for them, because they're replacing one big name driver with another big name driver. Yeah. And you've got another Ocon will then have another tough teammate to test himself against, who he has been teammates with Ricardo before, and I believe Ricardo did beat him before. So I think it could be good for both parties.
Metal Jace brings a name to the party. Alfa Romeo.
It's an out there sort of shot. They've got obviously Bottas contracted. Zhou currently isn't. He's not exactly. I mean, I feel bad for saying he's not set the world on fire, but he's had a lot of bad luck. His car has literally been on fire. So he's got Ferrari in the back. So
was he the fellow that had the awful crash?
Yeah.
Good
so
grief.
He's had some bad luck this year. He's had some poor results. I think he'll stay at Alpha next year, though. I can see that still being Bottas and Zhou. They're going to want to give Zhou some time to develop and improve. And there's a good driver in there.
Just because he leaves Alpha would see him not leave the sport, because you've got Williams, where we're opening, is coming open. You've got obviously Alpine, but you wouldn't have thought Zhou would be the replacement for Alonso. That's a little bit of a downgrade. No disrespect to Zhou, but he's still a new driver at this. Alonso's one of the best. You've got Haas. I mean, it's dominoes. It really is going to be which team blinks first and what happens. After all said and done, I wouldn't be surprised if Latifi is still driving at Williams.
Yeah,
that's the funny bit.
Guaranteed he'll keep his seat.
He's glued to it. Absolutely glued to it. Can't remove him. We'll keep up to date with it as things happen and move. We'll come live and we'll chat it through as always. Got a couple of comments. James, what do you guys think of? Well, that is the next question. I like it. Steve, over to you. What do you think?
I love it. As it stands, they're only joining as a power unit supplier, which is brilliant, because it will give someone else another chance to use a different power unit. It's another manufacturer back in the sport. First time they'll have been in Formula One. I'm assuming it's Audi who are joining, because obviously everything that's going on is obviously part of the Volkswagen group. It is Audi rather than the likes of VW or anyone else. But the delivery they released earlier, which is a sort of a little taster, a little teaser, I suppose, looks very, very nice, sort of black and orangey red. And it'll be good to see it. It's not as a full team, from what I understand. It is just a power unit supplier. And the strong rumour is that they're going to be either getting a controlling stake in Sauber or Alfa Romeo, as they are currently, and supplying units to them. But I'm really excited to see what they can do. It's going to be another big name in the sport. You've got Mercedes, German giant, now going up against Audi, German giant. And obviously you've got the likes of Ferrari and Renault who will still be there. Honda under a different name with Red Bull powertrains. So,
is it a toe dip? Are they dipping their toes into the water to see if they fancy the swim?
They could potentially, yeah. Manufacturers have done it before. They've sort of said, "Oh, we can enter it as a." I mean, Honda did it previously. Sort of dip your toe in as a an engine manufacturer, if it goes well, like it did with BAR when Honda was engine suppliers to them, they went all in the end and entered their own team. Honda Racing, unfortunately, didn't do too well. One race win and a couple of podiums for Button and Barrichello.
Barrichello.
Yeah, I know, one of my all-time favorites.
Rubens Barrichello.
But yeah, so it could be. But we've had it in other times where teams manufacturers have tried it and then haven't dipped their toe in all the way. Like Cosworth have only been in it as an engine supplier, for example. But yeah, you never know. It could be good.
And am I right in thinking another supplier of a power unit can only be good things for the sport, because we've had a lot of issues with power units this year?
Yeah, and I remember looking back on one of the seasons from the early noughties, and there were 10 teams and 9 different providers of power units, or just engines back in the day. And now you've only got 4. You've only got Ferrari, Renault, Honda, Red Bull powertrains, and Mercedes.
And when you have 4, you have teams that duplicate, and then you have 2 issues. Really, is that right? Am I right in saying that you've got 2
and
teams?
The rest,
with this...
like this year, Ferrari are quick, but they are fragile as hell.
But they can't finish.
So they can't finish a race, and they do, but they just implode strategy-wise. Yes. If the car makes it to the end of the race, it's in the wrong position because the team have ballsed up. But you've got Ferrari who are struggling with reliability. You've also got Alfa Romeo and Haas. That's 6 cars that are delicate. So that's 14 cars left that run Mercedes, Renault, or Red Bull powertrains that are more reliable. Adding in at least 2 other cars with Audi power. I saw a little comment earlier. It's if they got a controlling stake in Sauber, it's Audi Sauber. They could just be called Saudi. It should be quite good. So there we go. But anyway,
James Elmer, Steve. I know, but he knows. But you can see them getting good backing.
Yeah.
Aston are Williams fans, so they do wonder if another manufacturer. If you're both here, that means you've got the whole fan base, right?
Oh, shut up.
Just missing the dog.
I know at least one more fan. James, if you're watching, hello.
I know at least one more. I'm only teasing. You all can't, you all can't support Hamilton like I do. Aston, I do wonder if another. I'm just a glory hunter. I'm like a Man United fan of the F1 world. And yeah, that's the point. Hamilton's also in decline, like Man United. Yeah, it's very true in every way. Aston, I do wonder if another manufacturer will follow them, or if Renault will walk away.
No, I can't see Renault leaving. They're doing well. They're getting it back together now. The start of the hybrid era, their engines were terrible. They were unreliable. They were underpowered. They were slow. They were getting absolutely destroyed by Mercedes. Now they've become quite competitive again the past couple of years. They've got some good wins again under the Red Bull, with Red Bull name. The whole manufacturer team hasn't maybe reached the success as they thought it would by now after coming back in 2016 as a proper team. But they're getting better. I can't see Renault walking away. I can see other manufacturers sort of looking. Someone else is joining F1, so things are obviously happening in a good way. I think what tempted Audi in was the increase in electrical power, the move to carbon zero.
We spoke about last week.
So this is obviously, it's attracted a massive name, one of the biggest names in motoring into the sport. And there was a comment there saying, bring back Cosworth. I was thinking about it earlier, no word of a lie. I would love to see Cosworth back into it because they are one of my all-time favourites. They're one of the most successful engine providers in Formula One over the years. They powered so many big names. Williams, they powered Lotus.
So why aren't they in it now? Is it money?
They left. They the last time they were in Formula One was around 2010 because they powered the 3 new teams at the back. You had Lotus. Well, they might have been Renault. No, they were Cosworth. There was Lotus, the old Lotus. Or the newer Lotus, which was the crap one, Virgin Racing and Hispania, I think. And they weren't very successful. It was getting more and more expensive as well. And unfortunately, they just decided to call it a day after those seasons. I want to say sort of maybe 2012 would have been the last time we saw them. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows.
Well, I wouldn't know.
It's been I've missed them. I love Cosworth, and having them in the sport just feels right. They've been in Formula One so long. They are. I think they still are the most successful engine supplier because they've had so many championships.
They should be in it then.
So many teams. They should. Logically, you think, why aren't Cosworth still in it? But because it's become so much more expensive, and it's harder to be successful, especially with the sort of stranglehold that Mercedes have had on the sport over the recent years. But if it's attracted someone like Audi, well, there's no guarantee, obviously, anyone will come into it or come back into it. But
It's a good starting point, though, isn't it?
yeah.
Google
At
says
least
2013
one.
says might be.
Okay, that makes sense. It would have been around the sort of the Marussia HRT sort of era. Yeah.
3 years before this happens, though, we have got Alfa Romeo and Sauber partnership set to end. What do you know? What do you think about that one?
Disappointing.
And did I say it right? Sauber.
You did. Well done.
Get in.
Well done.
Get in.
Yeah, Alfa Romeo, obviously the title sponsors of Sauber, who have been in Formula One since '93.
Sauber.
Great team. I do like Sauber. They've had some gorgeous cars over the years, and the Alfa Romeo Saubers have been beautiful. 2018, I believe they came into it as a title sponsor for Sauber.
Should be super.
It ends 2023, end of next season. So who knows what's going to happen? Whether Sauber will go back to being just Sauber for the next couple of years until we can maybe expect an announcement or a tie-up with Audi. I don't know.
Ooh, you're playing 3D chess there. I like it.
Well, we've seen it before because BMW took over a controlling stake in Sauber and became their title sponsors and provided engines back in 06, 07, 08, 09, and then left, and it became just Sauber again, and then obviously became Alfa Romeo. So it is a shame because Alfa Romeo are a name that's historically associated with Formula One. Back in the 50s, they've dropped in and dropped out over the years, a bit like Honda, either as engines or an actual full-blown team. But
Aston doing the heavy lifting for me. I like you, Aston. I like you. You're doing the heavy lifting for me here. We spoke about this at work today. We figured we'd miss the Sauber name more than Ferrari in Formula One.
That is a bold call. That is
we like bold calls in Talking Town. That's what we're all about here on the platform. Bold.
I don't agree. I think Ferrari is synonymous, that's a big word, with Formula One. But Sauber is a really popular name in Formula One. It's been there for 30 years. And they've always been the plucky underdogs. They've never been heavy hitters, apart from maybe 2007, 2008, or 08 when they were in championship contention with Kubica. They've always been the sort of plucky underdogs who scrapped and got good results. They had podiums and decent finishes, and occasionally took some surprise results when other teams imploded around them, probably Ferrari. But they would be missed. When Sauber changed to Alfa Romeo, I was quite disappointed because the Sauber name wasn't on the grid. Obviously, it was still there sort of in spirit, but under a different name. And it would be nice to get the actual original team name back on the grid, even if it's for a couple of years before this link up with Audi, unless it becomes Audi Sauber, whatever it may be.
Okay, all right. Mike Dean, my mate had an Alfa print back in the 90s, a fine car. Aston's got an Alfa 1471, also a fine car. People loving the Alfa.
Have a weakness for Alfa. They always say that if you're a proper car fan, at some point in your life, you should own an Alfa Romeo. I'm not there yet.
You're not there. Keep working hard, Steve. You never know where it might lead you. Right. Last few minutes of today's pit stop. I apologise for, basically Steve doing all the heavy lifting and not having much back.
I could talk about Formula One for hours.
You could. Problem is, I can't. Even if I had the time, I'm struggling. It's a sport that is very complex, intriguing, storyline within storyline within storylines, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning the nuances and the details, and that's where Steve and yourself just that Neil and Steve. Sorry, I can't get the names right today. I'm that flummoxed. I'm that out of my comfort zone. But that's where you and Neil are so strong and so good as a pair. But we have got a race this weekend. We are back on Wednesday, obviously, to review and preview the next. But Verstappen and LeClerc to start at the back of the grid.
Well, looking further into it, there's a few other drivers that have got penalties as well, Lando Norris included. So even though they've got these penalties, they're probably still going to be starting around 15th, 16th anyway. So it's going to be a spicy race for them, that's for sure. But one thing I'm looking forward to, more than seeing who lines up where, is Mercedes looked really off the pace today in comparison. They seem to be struggling, but it's only been FP1 and FP2. Williams are looking okay in the hands of Albon, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Latifi, not so much. Ferrari look very, very quick, but they've had a sort of slight alteration to Spa-Francorchamps as a circuit. There's more gravel traps been added, and I love a gravel trap. Big fan of a gravel trap. On the outside of turn 1, which is very tricky at the start, Eau Rouge Radion, the nice uphill corners, they have had more runoff added and barriers altered to make it a bit safer. So there's been some changes which should hopefully improve the racing and obviously increase the risk of a punishment if you go off at a few of the corners. Down the end of the Kemmel Straight, there's more gravel traps added as well. So, yeah, it's such a good circuit. I was watching it earlier on TV at work, whilst working hard, of course.
Of course.
And it's just such a beautiful circuit in the Ardennes Forest. It's gorgeous.
There you go. So he's looking. Steve is buzzing for it, as you can see. We'll return on Wednesday to go through all the action. Neil will be with us. Do not fear. It's only a mini moon. It ain't. Well, I hope it's not. No, it is a mini moon. It is definitely. He said the words mini moon. But in fact, his wife did, because he wouldn't reply to me, so I had to go straight to the source. But we're back on Wednesday. Might D fancy Lewis's. Might D fancy Lewis to make a podium. Mm-hmm. What is your top three going to be, Steve?
My top three is going to be Sainz, Perez, and Lewis.
Lewis back on top.
Well, third.
Oh, I've reversed that order.
Sainz win. Because Leclerc's going to be coming from the back of the grid, well, near the back of the grid, same as Verstappen. They're both going to fight their way through, but Mercedes will do what Mercedes always do and say, "Oh, we're off the pace," and then they'll come in and they'll get a podium again.
I'll take that. I'll take that right now.
Williams will score points. Alex Albon, P9.
I'm gonna go one better, P8.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I think Albon's a rising star. Just being held back by he is. Just Williams need to join him really, to the party. But I think they will at some point. They're a team on the rise. I think even the most negative of Williams fans would probably have to agree with that. Yeah, they're a team on the rise. You think maybe not instantly, but 2-3 years you're going to be in that midfield battle again.
Yeah, their time will come.
Look at that. Steve saying their time will come. Well, our time has come. Steve, lead us out, my man.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. Obviously, it's a bit strange having us on a Friday night rather than a Monday or a Wednesday. So yeah, appreciate you joining us anyway. Love the chat. Love the all the comments as well. Getting involved. Great to see new people in here as well. Absolutely love it. So we'll be back on Wednesday, not Monday now, 7:15 to review the Belgian Grand Prix. Looking ahead to the following one because we've now got 3 on the bounce. So
content.
Absolutely endless content. Join us where we're back as a 3-piece. So we'll see you there.
Resist the urge for the joke.